In this talk, basically what I'm going to talk about is, it's just going to be a short introduction to pH medication. Some of us are cardiologists here who are well versed with the medications which are available. Some of our rheumatologists, some of us are pulmonologists. So just to give an overview as to what medications are available for treating pulmonary hypertension, basically pulmonary arterial hypertension is what I'm going to talk about. So I'll talk about short historical aspects, medications available, and the pathways which they act on, and a small slide on what is our experience in the PH referral center. So as we all know, there are three subgroups through three pathways. It has been stressed upon in the previous talk: the prostacyclin pathway, the nitric oxide pathway, and the endothelin receptor pathway. And there are medications which are available at each pathway. So the nitric oxide pathway, we have sildenafil, tadalafil, basically the phosphodiesterase inhibitors, and soluble guanylate cyclase agonists, that is the riociguat. The endothelin receptor pathway, we have the non-selective antagonists such as the bosentan and the macitentan, and the selective one which is ambrisentan. We have the prostacyclin pathway, in which we have the IV, the subcutaneous, and even the oral medications which are available. And of course, not but last the least, the miscellaneous ones such as calcium channel blockers, oxygen, immunomodulators, and iron. So if you see the timeline of for FDA to approve medications in pulmonary hypertension, the first one which was approved way back in 1995 was a prostacyclin pathway. It's very unfortunate that it is still not available in India. Followed by bosentan, treprostinil, again prostacyclin, sildenafil was in 2005, and very recently it has also approved riociguat and macitentan for the treatment of pulmonary arterial hypertension. So what are the medications which are available in India? We have the medications on the nitric oxide pathway, sildenafil and tadalafil, for a long time. Riociguat has been recently launched 1 year back. Endothelin receptor antagonists, bosentan and ambrisentan, were there for quite some time. Macitentan again launched in the last year. We all, of course, have the calcium channel blockers, oxygen, imatinib, tacrolimus, and iron, which is available. But the medication which was first approved for treatment of pulmonary arterial hypertension, the prostacyclins, are still not available and marketed in India. So coming to the specific pulmonary vasodilators, calcium channel blockers, they should be used in patients who have undergone vasodilator testing and are labeled as responsive. So now what do we use for defining pulmonary that they are positive pulmonary vasodilator? Is the most strict definition was given by Stribon et al., in which there has to be a decrease in the mean PA pressure of at least 10 to less than 40 millimeters of mercury, with no change or increase in cardiac output. There are criteria for pediatrics, in which Professor Robin Bast had given that a decrease in the mean PA pressure of 20% with increase or no change in cardiac output. The incidence of positive tests is between 6 to 20% depending upon what we use. And the medications which are approved for the use of vasodilatation testing are the inhaled nitric oxide, the prostacyclins, and IV adenosine can also be used. Of course, whichever criteria we use for defining pulmonary vasodilatation, the patients who are responsive perform much better as compared to the patients who are non-responsive. And this is seen over long term. However, testing in the cath lab is not without its risk. It should be done in the cath lab, and we have to usually use a medication which is specific for the pulmonary vasodilators with minimal effect on the systemic systemic circulation. Also, which has got a very short half-life, is very, very important. And this can be seen in this X-ray. This is a patient we took for cardiac catheterization. This is the X-ray of this child. There is some cardiomegaly, but there is hardly any pulmonary edema. We gave nitric oxide, and we landed in deep, deep trouble. The patient had frothing, he had pulmonary edema, we had to intubate the child, and we later investigated and with a CT scan, which was previously done and reported as normal actually, and we had a relooked at it, and we found that he had features of pulmonary veno-occlusive disease. So it's a rare thing to happen, but yes, cardiac cath in pulmonary hypertension is not without its risk, and only the centers who are capable of doing and are handling these complications should perform right heart catheterization. Coming to the nitric oxide pathway, sildenafil is the most commonly used pulmonary vasodilator. As we all know, it's a phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor. It's short acting with a terminal half-life of 3 to 4 hours, and hence it has to be used at least TID to QID. And it is available in oral form and IV form in our country, and inhaled in some parts of Russia it is available, but it's not available in India. Efficacy, as sildenafil has been proven efficacious both in improving the exercise capacity as well as decreasing the mean PA pressure and PVRI in patients with pulmonary arterial hypertension. Tadalafil, similar to sildenafil, terminal half-life is much longer, which offers a single daily dose regime can be used, and the side effect profile is similar to sildenafil. So would it be right for us to change from sildenafil to tadalafil just because a new drug has come into the market? And let's see if there is a rationale for this. So so this data is basically from my previous work experience in Canada, and Professor Ian Adatia and Shripal had compiled this data. So we had 3 patients, all with severe pulmonary arterial hypertension. Median age was 4.5 years, on maximum doses of sildenafil and bosentan, and had history of syncope or pre-syncope just before the next dose of sildenafil. They were on QID doses of sildenafil, and just before the next dose of sildenafil, the patient used to just fall down while playing. So what we did is we tried to do a cardiac catheterization at that time. So we kept a child NBM. A previous sildenafil dose was given 6 hours prior, and we tried to time the cardiac catheterization just before the next dose of sildenafil. And what we found, if you see, the mean PA pressure was quite high, so almost systemic, 2/3 systemic, and less than a 2/3 systemic over here. But as soon as we gave oral sildenafil, there was fall in the mean PA pressure and PVRI or RPRS ratio of a median of 53%. So that is what was happening, is they were reaching the terminal half-life, and probably their PA pressures and the pulmonary and PVRI there was a surge, and these patients were probably having syncope because of that. We changed these patients from sildenafil to tadalafil, and the symptoms kind of ameliorated over a period of time. Coming to the next drug which acts through the nitric oxide pathway is riociguat, which is the cyclic guanylyl cyclase stimulator. So as we all know, sildenafil will be a phosphodiesterase inhibitor, so it inhibits the degradation of nitric oxide. What riociguat does, it goes and stimulates the cyclic guanylyls, and it might be useful in certain patients of pulmonary arterial hypertension. It has been approved by US FDA for use in CTEPH, as well as recently for the use of pulmonary arterial hypertension. But again, is there a rationale? Say if my patient is not doing well on sildenafil and tadalafil, should I go and change over to riociguat, or what should I do? So as you all could see all the previous studies, there is comparison with placebo. There is no comparison with sildenafil or tadalafil. So I'll just present one patient which we had. She was a 19-year-old female who was a known case of pulmonary arterial hypertension for 10 years. Was sildenafil of 40 milligrams on ambrisentan of 20 milligrams, so very high doses. Was in functional class 4. We took her to the cath lab as to see what we can do. Basically, her RV function was, there was mild to moderate dysfunction was already set in. So what we could see is the PA pressures clearly were suprasystemic. The mean PA pressure of 73 for an aortic pressure of 63. So we gave nitric oxide for 10 minutes, and the PA pressures became subsystemic. So they were still not normal, not enough for us to qualify her as a pulmonary vasodilator positive, but there was a fall. Now, why was this fall happening is what we were thinking, because she's already on full doses of phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor. At that time, we didn't have the insight. We thought that let's see what we can do. At least the baseline PA pressure is suprasystemic. So what we went and did ahead was we did a port shunt for this patient. We connected the left pulmonary artery to the descending aorta. She did well in the post-operative period, but to our amaze, we were not able to taper off the nitric oxide. As soon as we could taper off the nitric oxide, her lower limb used to saturate to 10% and 5%. And that time we went and saw what the CAT data was showing, and there was some difference here on giving nitric oxide over here. So we changed her sildenafil to riociguat, and we were able to taper off nitric oxide over 5 to 6 days. So I don't know whether it was right or wrong, but it at least worked in our patient, and there was some evidence of that in the cath lab. And maybe if we had viewed it previously, maybe we would have changed from sildenafil to riociguat prior to taking her to cath lab, prior to doing the port shunt. Next, coming to the endothelin receptor antagonist, we all know 3 medications available in India: bosentan, ambrisentan, and macitentan. Bosentan and macitentan are non-selective. Ambrisentan is selective. Advantages of ambrisentan and macitentan over bosentan are single daily dosage and less hepatotoxic, but all of them are, I feel, are equally effective. At least we in our clinical practice have not seen any patient with bosentan who has got a liver toxicity. Last group of drugs which is not available in India, but very, very important to know, prostacyclin analogs. There can be IV, subcutaneous or oral. Earliest drug, as I mentioned before, was which was approved for the treatment for pulmonary arterial hypertension, unfortunately is not marketed in India. And if you see, we have to start prostacyclins early. Even the starting of prostacyclin has a significant difference in the survival. If you start it early, the patients even fare much better. So it's not available in India, but can be imported. So we have currently 13 patients who are on inhaled iloprost, age ranging from 3 years to 56 years. The dose we are using is 2.5 to 5 micrograms 6 to 9 times daily, and we have a median follow-up of 18 months. And most of the patients, there is an improvement in functional class. There is improvement in NT-proBNP. There is no major side effect which has required withdrawal of the medication. And you can see the patient. This is our youngest patient who is taking the iloprost by himself. As we all know, prostacyclins also have their limitations. So there will be an initial fall, improvement in the functional class, and slowly there is again the rise in the PA pressure and worsening in the functional class, even with epoprostenol and treprostinil. And the same we observed in one of our patients who was actually a medical practitioner. So this was one of our first patients when we started on her iloprost. She was in functional class 4. She was wheeled into our clinic. There was a significant improvement once we started her on iloprost. That improvement lasted for 2 or 3 years, but slowly she again started to have worsening in the functional class and increase in NT-proBNP. So we started with 2.5 micrograms 6 times daily. By the time we were here, we were already on 5 micrograms 9 times daily, and we were not able to make any headway. At that time, we thought that will there be any rationale of changing the prostacyclin, or she would be a candidate for a lung transplant. We had counseled them for lung transplant, but they were not willing to go for lung transplant. So we thought might as well give another prostacyclin a try. So we started her on treprostinil, subcutaneous treprostinil. This is a picture which she has sent to me. And there is a significant, again, a drop in the functional class from 4 to 3, a significant drop in the NT-proBNP, but we don't know how much long it is going to last. So there are other medications which are available, like imatinib, which is a tyrosine kinase inhibitor and anti-proliferative agent. It was very exciting to see the initial results. However, the long-term effects were not that great, and the most common complication was subdural hematoma, and hence it is no longer been recommended. Tacrolimus, there are certain studies which are tacrolimus and everolimus. There are certain studies which are coming up, but still, I would say, is not reached clinical practice. To conclude, phosphodiesterase inhibitors and endothelin receptor antagonists form the backbone of treatment of pulmonary arterial hypertension in India. Prostacyclin analogs are very effective and can be imported in a select group of patients. Imatinib and tacrolimus are still experimental, and we need to see what data comes out of it. Thank you.